And did you know also that a vast majority of the people, even though they do start, at the first opposition, they quit or allow themselves to be diverted over to something else? I wonder, it just occurs to me to ask a question. I wonder if you who have been here close to me and where we have taken our hair down and talking frankly, I wonder if you know what my outstanding asset it happens to be.
Never give up.
Will to win. Well, yeah, you're getting hot. I have persistence and the will to win, and also the self-discipline with which to stick to a thing all the harder when the going is the hardest. Now, that is my outstanding quality. It always has been, it always will be. And I want to tell you, without those traits, I never would have completed this philosophy. I never would have been able to have it introduced as widely as it has been, and I wouldn't be standing here talking to you tonight. And what about that trait? Is that something you're born with, or is it something that you can acquire? Well, if you couldn't acquire it, there'd be no use of talking about this lesson, would there? Certainly you can acquire it. And it's not very difficult at that. What is it that causes a person to be persistent, by the way?
Motive.
Yes, motive. Burning desire. Do you know what a burning desire is?
Yes.
Burning desire, or back of a motive, is what makes people persistent, isn't it? A burning desire back of a motive. I never think of persistence and a burning desire that I don't think of my courtship. I remember that I put more persistence and more burning desire back of my courtship than anything else that I ever went into in my life. And I want to tell you, without that, I don't think you get very far in a courtship. Well, don't you think you could transmute that emotion over to something else, putting it back of your business or your profession or your job, and have just as much emotional feeling about attaining success in your job as you could about selling yourself to the one of your choice? Don't you think you could do that? You know what that word transmute means, by the way? Do you? What does it mean? Fine.
Redirect.
Fine. Marvelous.
Redirect.
Have you ever tried it on anything or anybody?
Yes.
Marvelous. Marvelous. If you haven't tried it, start trying it. The next time you feel moody or discouraged, try to change that over into an emotion of courage and faith. You see what a marvelous thing happens to you. You'll change the whole chemistry of your whole brain and your whole body. And you'll be much more effective. And number 7 is a well-developed faculty of the imagination, controlled and directed. Do you think those last words there are important?
Yes.
Yes, an imagination not controlled and directed might be very dangerous. I once made a survey, made an analysis of all of the men in the federal penitentiaries of the United States. I did that for the Department of Justice. And you'll be interested in knowing that the majority of the men in the penitentiary were there because they had too much imagination. But it was not controlled and directed in a constructive direction. Now, imagination is a marvelous thing, but if you don't have it under control and if you don't direct it to definite ends, constructive ends, it may be very dangerous to you. And number 8, the habit of forming definite and prompt decisions. By the way, do you do that? Do you form definite and prompt decisions when you have all of the facts in hand with which to make decisions?
Yes.
Well, I think some of you are just a little bit too modest. Well, seriously, friends, if you do not have the habit of making decisions promptly and definitely, clear-cut decisions, when all of the facts are in, you're loafing on the job, you're procrastinating, and you're destroying this very vital thing called personal initiative. One of the finest places to start practicing personal initiative is to learn to make decisions firmly and definitely and quickly once you have all of the facts available. Now, I'm not talking about snap judgments. I'm not talking about opinions or snap judgments based upon half-baked evidence. I'm talking about facts, all of the facts on a given subject, which are not in your hands and available. You should then do something with those facts. You should make up your mind exactly what you're going to do and not dilly-dally around, as so many people do. Because if you do that, first thing you know, you will be in the habit of dilly-dallying around in connection with everything. In other words, you will not be a person who acts upon his own personal initiative. And number 9. The habit of basing opinions on facts instead of relying on guesswork. How many of you do that? How many of you rely upon facts instead of guesswork? Well, pretty truthful bunch, I think. I wonder if you do. I wonder if you recognize how many times you're acting on guesswork in comparison with the number of times that you're acting upon facts in forming your opinions. I wonder if you recognize the importance of making it your business to get at facts before you form an opinion about anything. Did you know that you have no right to an opinion about anything at any time, anywhere, unless it's based upon facts or what you believe to be facts? Did you know that? And why is that true? Would you tell me why you don't have a right to do that? Because you don't want to get into trouble. You don't want to fail. That's why. Of course, you can go ahead and have opinions, and we all do, a flock of them. You can even give them to somebody else without them asking for them, and we do that right along. But before you really and truly can safely express an opinion or have one, you must do a certain amount of research and base your opinion upon facts or what you believe to be facts. Now we'll come down to this enthusiasm one, number 10. The capacity to generate enthusiasm at will and control. Do you know how to generate enthusiasm at will?
Act. Do it. Feel it. Conviction.
5.
Having a positive attitude.
What's back of all this? What happens before you start doing anything in connection with enthusiasm? Yes, you have to feel it, don't you? You have to feel the emotion you have to be quickened, and your mind has to be alerted with some definite objective or purpose or motive. And then you do something about that motive. You do it with words, with the expression of your face, or by some other form of action. That word action is inseparable from the word enthusiasm. You can't separate the two. Now, there are two kinds of enthusiasm. There's passive enthusiasm which you feel, but you give no expression of it whatsoever. And there are times when you need that kind, believe you me. Because if you don't have that kind, you disclose to other people what goes on in your mind at times when you don't want that to happen. You take a great leader, a great executive, and while he may have a tremendous amount of enthusiasm, he'll display that enthusiasm only to whomsoever he pleases and under whatsoever circumstances he pleases. He will not just turn it on and go off and leave it. That's the way you and I do it. Or do we? That's the way the majority of people do. When they have enthusiasm, they just turn it on and blubber over in it, and they accomplish nothing. Controlled enthusiasm turned on at the right time and then turned off at the right time is an important thing, and your initiative is the only thing that can control that. You know, if you took that one subject alone, the question of how to turn on and off enthusiasm, and got the art down fine, you could become a marvelous salesman of anything you might want to sell. Did you know that? You really could. Did you ever hear of anybody selling anything that didn't feel enthusiasm over what he's trying to sell?